Hello, hello. Good to see everybody. Welcome to those watching the video later, and you might notice Roger's back. So, hey, welcome back, Roger. How you feeling?
All considered, it's not bad.
It's very good to see you. Um, well, you haven't been here, so for you and the viewers at home, here's what we've been up to. We've been doing a series called More Than Decor. Maybe you've been to a Hobby Lobby before or something like that, and you might see that they have a whole shelf, a whole aisle even, full of wall art with scripture verses or other motivational, inspirational sayings on it. And those are very nice, and you'll see them in people's homes or in churches even. But it's usually just maybe a verse, maybe two verses. So the kind of idea of this has been, well, what's the context around that verse? You might get a reaction or a good feeling or something when you see that on the wall, but what's the deeper context? What's going on behind that and the verses around it? And so we've been digging into the context of some of these popular verses. We've been starting with the prophets because those usually have a lot going on in their situation, or a prophet wouldn't have been sent in the first place. So we looked at Amos and Micah and Isaiah and who else am I missing? Um, Jeremiah. A lot of popular, verses that people know pretty well. Last week we got out of the prophet vein and we went to Joshua. A couple verses from Joshua that kind of bookend the one at the end is, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." And the one at the beginning is, "I command you to be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Okay, and we dug into the context of Joshua and what those mean. Today, I think we'll wrap up the Old Testament and then we'll spend November looking at some New Testament wall decor. But for the last week of Old Testament stuff, um, I don't want to call it leftovers, but it's just kind of bits and pieces. So I'm going to start with one that Lois brought up. Is she still coming in?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, hopefully we don't get too far in it. But there's this verse in First Chronicles chapter 4. We don't spend a lot of time in Chronicles, first or second, and we'll talk about why that is in a minute. But if you all have it, it's First Chronicles. It's right after Samuel and Kings. We're gonna look at First Chronicles chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. First Chronicles chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. Wait for the rustling of pages to die down, and somebody is welcome to jump in and read it.
Jabez was honored more than his brothers, and his mother named him Jabez, saying, because I bore him in pain. 9 and 10.
Yes, please.
Jabez, is that how you got Jabez?
Heard of Jabez.
Called on the God of Israel, saying, oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my border, and that your hand might be with me, and that you would keep me from hurt and harm. And God granted
That's it.
what he asked.
Oh, is that still part of it too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And mine is anyway.
No, it is. I was focused on your prayer. Thank you. Has anybody heard this before? It's often just known as the prayer of Jabez. No? Okay.
I don't know, who is Jabez?
This is the only time he ever shows up.
Oh, so we don't know much.
But no. Okay, so the prayer of Jabez. I thought maybe some people would have heard of it. I'm guessing Lois knows it since she's the one that mentioned it. I'm just gonna have to keep going, and you'll have to have her watch the video later.
Yeah.
All right. So this was very much in vogue. This verse, the whole book was written about it, called the Prayer of Jabez. Back in the year 2000, I think.
It was 2000.
Yeah. So,
I know it was actually.
there it is. I knew I wrote down somewhere. By a guy named Bruce Wilkinson. We'll come back to him in just a second. But first, let's talk a little bit about Chronicles. Okay. So, the book of Chronicles, also known in the Hebrew Bible as the Events of the Days, was written after the exile, after people came back to Jerusalem, around the same time as Ezra and Nehemiah. We looked at those two books a couple of years ago. The they don't get a lot of attention. That, there's a lot about the exile itself and promises to come back from the exile, but there's not as much attention given to once they got back and how hard that was, how they had to rebuild, how they had to reestablish the covenants, how they had to get along with their new Persian overlords as opposed to Babylonians. They let them come back and worship and stuff, but they still were under another country's control, another kingdom's control. So this comes back, and it's almost, it's also interesting that the very last two verses of Second Chronicles are identical to the first three verses of Ezra. So as people were piecing these scriptures together, they wanted to make sure that you knew that these two flowed one into the next. It's largely parallel to Samuel and Kings. There's a lot of duplication, some of it almost word for word as you read it, between the stories of First and Second Samuel, First and Second Kings, and the stories of First and Second Chronicles. In the Hebrew Bible, it's, oh shoot, I forgot my show and tell. I'll have to run over and get that really quick. In the Hebrew Bible, it's the books are in a little different order. The writings, as they're called, so the Psalms, Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, Ruth, they're all at the back. They're at the end of the Old Testament. They don't call it the Old Testament, it's the only testament. It's just the Bible. It's the Hebrew Bible. So but it's Chronicles is considered one of those writings that's put at the end because it's like this repeat. It focuses more on Judah than Israel. It leaves a lot of the northern kingdom stuff out that you would get in those books. And it's also I like this phrase in one of the books I was researching, and it is a selective retelling. Right? A selective retelling. The point of Chronicles is not to be a competing history book. The point of Chronicles is to be a selective retelling to really highlight certain aspects. In this case, it's the theology of the temple and the Levites, right? A lot of the prophets we've looked at are go back to the beginning, go back to Exodus, go back to God's work in the wilderness, go back to the promised land, right? That's sort of a reset. So if you think about it, this was written down after the exile. All the things that got them into the exile in the first place were idolatry and treating your neighbors poorly, treating the vulnerable, the poor, the widows bad, making the lives of the poor worse. So now that they've reestablished and they're rebuilding the temple, okay, the temple's important. We got it back now. We're finally back. We get to rebuild. Make sure we worship. Make sure we go back to the core of what we were before. So go back to worship, go back to the temple, go back to the Levites and what they do, get back to this relationship with God as it was spelled out and set up in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and the Torah, right, in the original books. So it highlights the history, especially of Judah, where Jerusalem, where the temple is, and keeps coming back to this theological themes of, the things that were good, but the kings did good things, and the things that were bad that got us into this trouble in the first place. So it's an interesting series to read, especially though if you're into genealogy, because the first few chapters of Chronicles really are just genealogies, lists and lists of names. That's where this verse falls. Let me see if I left anything out here. I think that's about it.
I like this one here called the Prayer of Jezebel. It's one of those tiny
Not Jezebel.
Jabez.
That's a little bit.
They're very good. Yeah. It's one of those tiny biblical footnotes that somehow turned into a global bestseller.
Yeah.
And it's like finding gold. It's like mining gold in the middle of the list of names.
Yeah. So most of this is just lists of names, right? So in this case, this is under the section kind of heading descendants of Judah, right? One of the 12 sons, one of the 12 tribes. And it's just going down the list. Look at chapter 4, verse 1. The sons of Judah, Perez, Hezron, Carmi, Hur, Shobal, Reiah, son of Shobal, became the father of Jahab, right? One of those lists, begat, if you're in the old translation.
It goes on until I just looked to chapter 6, verse 31. It's just name after name after name until you get it.
Well, actually, let me see. Chapter 6, verse 31.
Oh, does it keep going?
Oh, it keeps going. Yeah. I have it going through chapter 9.
For tomorrow's sons.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, we're studying tomorrow and.
Yeah.
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 Those are the twins.
So you get, if you go all the way through chapter 9, verse 1, it says, "So all Israel was enrolled by genealogies, and these are written in the book of the kings of Israel. And Judah was taken into exile in Babylon because of their unfaithfulness. Now the first to live again in their possessions and their towns were the Israelites, priests, Levites, and temple servants." Hey, look who got to come back first, right? The people who kept the religion, who kept the law, right? Who did the worship, who made the offerings, they get to come back first. And even then, if you keep going, you get the inhabitants of Jerusalem after the exile. You get the priestly families, the Levitical families, they're listed first. And then you go all the way back to Saul and David, and you go back. That's where it starts kind of paralleling with the other
So they're
books.
basically legitimizing what came before.
Well, legitimizing and also saying, hey, let's not go through this again. And the way to keep from going through this again is go back to the original law, right? You read Leviticus gets all the attention for laws, right? The food laws, the purity laws, also the golden rule, love your neighbor as yourself. That's from Leviticus. But when you think weird, specific Old Testament laws, you think Leviticus. But Exodus, after the Ten Commandments, there's a lot of stuff in there about building the Ark of the Covenant, a ton of rules about the offerings you make and sacrifices you make and where to scatter the blood and all sprinkle the blood and all, the priestly garments, all that stuff. Aaron was the first of the Levites, right? The Levites descend from Aaron, Moses' brother. So all of that starts in Exodus, goes in Leviticus. We get more as we go. Deuteronomy literally means the second law, so they repeat everything. So this is all saying, go back to the Torah, to the law, to the instructions, to the covenants God made with you after you were brought out of slavery in Egypt. So the Ten Commandments in the wilderness and the laws that were established as you made your way back to the promised land. And if you want your life to go well for you, stick to the law, stick to the covenants. So yeah, now the first 9 chapters of Chronicles are these genealogies. It starts with Adam and gets all the way after the exile. Chapter 10 through 29 is the reign of David. 2 Chronicles 1 through 9 is the reign of Solomon. And 2 Chronicles 10 through 36 is the Davidic monarchy all the way up till the exile. So all of that parallels the stories in Samuel and Kings, with an emphasis on Judah. And as we said, selective free time. So what you were just alluding to there in this book that came out in the year 2000 by Bruce Wilkinson, part of a series called the Breakthrough Series. It was kind of like a self-help book. It was a 30-day plan. So you pray the prayer of Jabez every day, and then each day you try to, follow this author's advice going back to this prayer. Now, when you read the prayer, the prayer itself is verse 10. Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, "Oh, that you would bless me, enlarge my," what was yours, borders?
Enlarge my border.
Borders, I have territory.
Yeah, that's fine, it's territory.
Enlarge my territory, and that your hand might be with me, and that you would keep me from hurt and harm. That's all we get. Jabez doesn't show up in the book of Genesis. Jabez doesn't show up in other genealogies. Just here with this little prayer stuck in that most of the other lists don't have anything like this. And so that stood out, got somebody's attention, and they wrote this. And so on the surface, this prayer is fine, right? Especially when you think about Israel, when you think about how important the land was, how important livestock and crops were in this culture, in this system. So on the surface, it says, okay, bless me, enlarge my territory, your hand is with me, keep me from hurt and harm. That last part isn't too different from the Lord's Prayer, right? Deliver us from evil, do not lead us into temptation, right? Similar thing. The way this Bruce Wilkinson guy used it, though, some folks have criticized for being too much like the prosperity gospel, right? It's all about your personal wealth, your territory, kind of gimme. Anybody ever watch Parks and Recreation? There's a character who goes, "Money, please," to her dad all the time. So it could come across that way. So some people criticize this guy's book because it kind of makes it seem like God will obey your wishes, right? Keep praying this every day. Keep following my easy 30-day guide and you'll come out rich, right? So the book got criticized for that, but it was everywhere for a year or two, this book based on this prayer, because of that. I like this too. One of the criticisms was that it produced sanctification, not sanctification, sanctification.
Easy now.
The, the bad kind of sanctification, where it's where you look at God as just the gift giver and nothing
Yep.
else. So it worked for Jabez, as far as I know.
It worked for the author too.
Oh, sure. Yeah, for a couple of years there. Yeah, he did really well. And so it's too individual, it's too money please, too me. That was the criticism. I think if you take the prayer in the context of this time and place and culture, amidst this list of genealogy, it makes sense. They're just coming back in the promised land. Or sorry, they're just spreading out this, the covenant with Abraham was you'll have, descendants more than the stars in the sky and grains of sand on the beach, right? So that makes sense. Expand my territory. Keep your hand with me. Continue this covenant expansion. When they come back to the promised land after Egypt, they're, there's the whole thing we read in Joshua we looked at where it has the lists of how each tribe got reallocated their land. So that all works in context, but if you try to take it and put it into a consumer-driven capitalist society, right, it takes on a different character. So I wish I'd had more to go with Jabez. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's this one little prayer, no other mentions. This book that made it, flare bright for a couple of years back in 2000. But of course, I still have wall art for it because it was so popular for a while. People aren't familiar with it. So let's show the people at home first. Here's the first two. One's very lovely. This one almost has almost like a veteran's vibe to it. You'll see what I mean in a second. Here's another full one, and then this one just has the excerpt. Let your hand be with me, right? Just boils it down to that. So I'll send it around this way. But we've got these two with the full prayer. This is the prayer, just the prayer. God called out, God granted, right? The whole thing. Here it is again without the brackets of the conversation. And there's this one. Very lovely, very nice. If you had this on a wall, if you saw this on a wall in your home or in somebody else's home, I kind of forgot to start with that. What would it make you think of, right? Would it bring you back to the book, or would it usually I ask this before we get into the context. I got myself out of order today, but I mean,
Not in this case, because the book's a list of names
yeah,
that were, and one that we don't study often, right?
there's not much to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, maybe this is true or not, but Jabez means pain.
Oh, yeah.
And his mom named him after her suffering, instead of letting that define him, he prayed this prayer to God.
So it's kind of funny, right? The names in the Bible, like if you look at Naomi's sons-in-law, right? Ruth's husband and the other one, Orpah's husband who died, their names are something like, bitterness and pain. Like it's not like there's names in the Bible are fun. So yeah, she had a tough labor and childbirth, so she named him a pain. And so maybe that's why he says this.
We should name off it.
Yeah. So yeah, turn my name
Good,
on.
except I don't like the first part. Oh, that bless me and expand my territory. The
Mhm.
last part, I could see putting up, please be with me in all that I do and keep me from all trouble and pain. I can see that part.
Yeah, the expand my territory
Yeah, that's
doesn't
what I don't like.
age well, or at least in our culture.
This one says enlarge.
Oh, and I crush my enemies before me instead of,
I mean, there's a reason why we don't have.
So everything of their whole existence was on.
The context of this is what you said earlier is, they've just moved back into Israel, so they're trying to establish themselves, so expand my territory is necessarily being greedy.
Yeah.
It's just, I want my share.
Well, like going out, when they had the land rushes.
Yeah.
In the 1870s, out west, put your marker down.
Well, also remember, this was written down.
Mhm.
This was the selective retelling after the exile. So again, third time getting into the promised land. The first time was Abraham and the descendants just propagated. The second time was after slavery in Egypt, and now here they're back from Babylon, and the same thing. Okay, establish us, expand us, get it going again. So it all makes sense in
Women
context.
certainly didn't count for much. If you notice in here, they're only ever mentioned if they give birth to kids.
That's true.
You know?
It was a patriarchal
Today's
society.
women would definitely revolt, I think.
There are matriarchal societies in the world and cultures, but this was definitely patriarchal.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's why in Matthew's genealogy, the book study you're doing in Women's Bible Study, there are 5 women's names. And so that in itself is, one of these things is not like the other. You wouldn't put it there and break the pattern if there wasn't some significance.
And most of them were not treated real well.
No, they weren't. No, they weren't. And I think somebody pointed out the other week that most of them were not Jewish,
Yeah. Three of those 5, or not?
right? And then Bathsheba, whoosh,
I'm in that one, man.
Yeah, I heard it.
Jeez.
what David does to her and to Uriah, it's rough. But that's why, in theory, the story is that's what Psalm 22 was in response to. After David's punishment, after the child that Bathsheba was bearing was going to die, he says, what Jesus ends up saying from the cross. Sorry, wrong one. I knew that wasn't right. Psalm 51 is David's. Create me a clean heart, O God. Renew a right spirit within me. I'm nothing. Restore me. It's a confession. I was going to say, there's Psalm 137, lament over the destruction of Jerusalem. There's a bit in there that you don't see on the wall art, right? At the end of Psalm 137, remember, O Lord, against the Edomites, the day of Jerusalem's fall, how they said, tear it down, down to its foundations. O daughter Babylon, you devastator, happy shall they be who pay you back for what you have done to us. Happy shall they be who take your little ones and dash them against the wall. Right? That is not on the wall art.
No.
Infanticide, right? So yeah, the Bible is full of difficult stuff that doesn't make it. It's almost better to have just the prayer of Jabez that's this own little island in the middle of the genealogy. But anybody who says that, the Bible's nothing but happy stories clearly
No.
But also anybody who says that you shouldn't be angry with God, that you shouldn't express doubts to God, they're off base too.
Mhm.
Just read these stories, read the stories of God's people who have experienced every kind of emotion and pain, good and bad, that you can.
One thing I like about the early Jewish tradition was that they would argue with him.
Yeah.
Literally just really get on his case.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of the tradition of Jewish scholarship and biblical interpretation, is you get a bunch of people together arguing about what does this mean. And I think that's pretty healthy, because they don't leave there going, I'm gonna get you next time, or like, I'm gonna start my own church, right? Like Christians do a lot. The debate, I mean, not that there's not different branches of Judaism, but the debate is part of the faith. The arguments, the debate, the holding two things in tension that don't seem to go together, that's considered to be healthy and faithful. And I think we could really learn from that. There are certainly some things, especially as Christians, that we would say, no, that's over the line, that's out of bounds. It doesn't, we have to come back to Christ, right? But I think we could stand and help a little bit more.
One of the things we do is we do hero worship. Well, they argue with God.
I mean, that's generalization, but a little bit, yeah, sure.
But Emmanuel for us, Israel. We're
Yeah.
commanded to be Israel.
And we're said that Christians are ancestors not by blood, but by faith to Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
And that Abraham covenant, it's always the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Well, what was Jacob's other name? Israel. The one who strives, the one who wrestles. That's
The
our
one
name.
Yeah, commanded.
Yeah.
I had a thought the other day, where we argue who got the Abrahamic covenant, right?
Mhm.
that whether Jews, Christians, or Islam.
Yeah.
And the covenant was your descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky.
Mhm.
Well, imagine this, God fulfilled it to all three groups. You know, we sit here and argue about the nuances of it, and he's up there going, you know, all three of you got the covenant, why are you sitting there arguing? I didn't have to spread the one lineage or the other.
Yeah, I always think of Peter, right? Like, I can do it, I'm walking on the water.
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, you have little faith. And morons, but still with love,
Well,
you know, I'm still gonna help you.
And Lamb, I really like the Lamb, the book of, you know, it
The
said,
gospel
Peter,
according to
Yeah.
Biff. Yeah.
Peter, you are dumb as a rock. I will build you my church upon you. I love that line.
Do you think we could do that
I don't know.
as a plan?
It's
Pretty bad.
it's
It's not bad, it's
it
just
is wonderfully spiritual and
completely irreverent.
exactly that's the best way to describe it.
And it will,
Wonderfully spiritual, but completely irreverent. Yes, it is.
Just okay.
It puts so many like little funny things of why do we eat Chinese food on do we eat Chinese food on Christmas?
it's so funny,
Yeah, it's so
but it doesn't actually go against the
it
scripture.
never doesn't blasphemy.
It's amazing.
He walked that line. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I just love that line. You're as dumb as a rock. I'm gonna build my church upon you.
As he sings.
He pulled him out of the water.
It's a good, maybe someday, maybe as a treat, we will do some satire. All right, moving on. Anything else on the prayer of Jabez? I wish there was more, but. Yeah, okay.
There must be something significant to it if they stuck it in the middle
Yeah.
of all of this
Yeah.
genealogy.
It was important. I think in our conversation, it tied together the background research I did and the culture and context of this verse. You're coming back from exile again, rebuilding Jerusalem and the temple again. It makes sense that this prayer that somehow got passed along would be lifted up in the genealogy to say, please have your hand on me, expand my territory, bless me. Don't let this happen again, right? Kind of fortify.
They lost everything when they went there and became slaves, so this now they were set free and as I said, the agrarian, you know, everything was based on what they owned.
Yep.
So they would want to
Land.
reset and resettle, so that would be a big deal
It
about making their self-worth.
Yeah, crucial prayer for your livelihood in this culture and in this economic system. To be used as a self-help book today, a little problematic because it's taking it out of that context. But that's the core of it, is God reestablish us. And if the selective retelling was all about getting back to the temple and the law, then that's what's missing from the book, right? Well, I can't say I haven't read it. Okay, I'll retract, strike that from the record. But that would be needed. You would need both things in tension. That, okay, expand my territory, but only as I am staying faithful to the law, right? That's kind of how that cycle worked in the Old Testament over and over again. You mess up, bad things happen. And not because God is like saying, I'm gonna zap you now, but it's like, I told you what would happen. No, you didn't stick with me, and here it is. I'll bail you out again. Okay. Part 2 today. This is not anything anybody asked for, but I just went to Hobby Lobby's website and I looked up their scripture wall art, and most of the Old Testament ones we'd already talked about. I think we covered like their big sellers, but there was one that came up a few times that we haven't talked about, and it is from a book of the Bible that I'm just not as comfortable with because I don't know what to do with it, and that's Proverbs. Proverbs doesn't have a lot of narrative. Proverbs doesn't have a lot of history or prophecy. A good chunk of Proverbs is just lists of sayings and conventional wisdom of Proverbs.
Mhm.
And it's some of them even really contradict each other. So it's like you can really pick and choose out of Proverbs little lines. And so I'm never quite sure what to do with it. But this one was featured a few times. It's actually almost an entire chapter of the book of Proverbs, but we're going to start with one verse and then go from there. So let's turn to the book of Proverbs, all the way at the end of Proverbs, chapter 31, last book of Proverbs. And we're going to start at verse 10 in a minute. First, we'll lift up the verse that made it onto a lot of the wall art. and then we'll come back to 10 and read the whole thing. So mine has a heading, verses 10 through 31, of Ode to a Woman of Strength. Anybody else have a heading on theirs? What do you got?
Ode to a capable wife.
Ode to a capable woman.
Yes.
Which one was
Chapter 31, all the way at the end of Proverbs. All right, so first, I'll do this one, I'll hand this one. Here's the
You're
first,
the NRSVUE, right?
that's what I've got.
Okay.
All right, so for the folks at home,
Teaching of King Lemuel's mother.
all right, and what does it say at verse 10?
Oh.
No?
Ode to a capable wife.
Oh, to a capable wife. Yeah. What was mine again? Ode to a woman of strength. So
We got better.
let me show you this. Some of these are designed, at least how they're labeled, their department on Hobby Lobby's website, as to go in a kid's room, specifically a daughter's room. But here's what it says. So let's do verse 25. Did somebody read verse 25?
Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come.
All right, strength and dignity are the clothing. She laughs at the time to come. Here's what one of Hobby Lobby's big sellers is. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs. What is this one? She laughs without fear of the future. Same one. So here's this one. This is the one that was on Hobby Lobby's website, the pink and white at the top. Supposed to hang that in your daughter's room. There you go.
Not always cheerful about the future.
Yeah. So not afraid, cheerful. The future does not concern her because of her strength, of her. Now, does this actually talk about her faith?
It says strong and graceful in this one.
Yeah, and Proverbs is weird because it talks about wisdom a lot, but it doesn't always talk about God. It's part of the holy writings that go on the back of the Hebrew Bible. All of that. Okay. Could somebody go ahead and start reading this whole passage? I'm gonna go grab my show and tell that I forgot to get. I've already read it, so it's okay. So somebody please read, just start at verse 10, go until you need to tag out, and then we'll get all the way through the end of the chapter. I'll be right back.
A capable wife you can find. She's far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She's like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from far away. She produces while it is still night and provides food for her household and tasks for her servant girls. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hand to the distaff and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hands to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She's not afraid for her household when it snows, for all her household are clothed in crimson. She makes herself coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is in the city gates, taking his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and she supplies the merchant with sashes. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her happy, her husband too, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her a share in the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in city gates.
There you go. Thank you. Okay, so like I was saying, there's this wisdom literature that is Proverbs, some Psalms, Ecclesiastes, Job is considered to be wisdom literature, especially certain parts of it. there's a couple of books in the Apocrypha, right? That middle intertestamental section that you can get in like kind of more academic Bibles. Some Catholics or Orthodox groups count them as scripture. Most Protestants don't. They're at the end of the Hebrew Bible. That's my show and tell. This is a Hebrew Bible. It goes right to left. There you go. I'm better at Greek than Hebrew. Hebrew is much harder. There's very different culture, worldview, no vowels, right to left. It's much harder. But Proverbs is traditional sayings. It's making observations. There's some parts that have more to it than that, but most of it is it's just these sayings. This is an extended prayer. This is kind of unusual here at the end about the capable wife or the strong woman. What before we go, what did you think of that reading the fuller passage? Had you read that before? What did you think of
That's impossible.
it? Okay.
You know, we started that capable wife who can find, question mark, quote. I don't think there's very many who fulfill all of these or who would even want to fulfill all of these.
It's a high standard.
Yes, this was definitely written before women's lib.
Yes. Well, that's one of the notes I had was it said, this is not misogynistic, but definitely patriarchal.
Right.
Right? It's opposed to a lot of other passages in the Bible, especially Tamar that you guys were just talking about. This is practically women's lib for Old Testament stuff, right? But it's still very much, but it's the husband who's in the gate.
But she's got a business.
Yeah.
She's doing stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a business, but she's also running the whole house and doing everything.
That's because she can.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Way to put it.
That's right. So very, very unique situation. So let me show you some more art. This has most, if not all of the passage turned into that clothing, right? That's strength and dignity of her clothing. So some clever artists did that. Okay, there's that one. We got to get the lights in here going. All right, we'll pass this one around. But the thing with this passage is, just like the rest of Proverbs, it's very easy to just pick and choose little snippets. So the next one has just different pieces of this prayer pulled out. So here you go. So the first one is, she is clothed with strength and dignity. Okay, cool. A woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. Okay. Strength and dignity are her clothing. She laughs at the time to come. We've had that one. This one has a sewing machine. She works with her hands with delight. We have the bits in there about sewing. Yeah. So there's this one. This one. Charm is deceitful and beauty in vain. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. A mouth. This one you can get personalized. This one says Rebecca. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. Right. This one, very nice. She's the same verse, clothed strength and dignity. Very nice on the wall. But then there's this one, which I just think is kind of funny. The last three. This is the most cherry picked of them all. She is strong. That's all it says.
That's all.
She is strong. Proverbs 31:25.
That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
It is, but it's like that's all. But this one I think is funny too. This one says Proverbs. Oh, it says 5:25. That's not right. Should be 31:25. She can laugh. That's it just. And then the last one. Who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies? That's what you were mentioning a minute ago, Donna. So there's all of that. Now this is kind of fun. Does anybody know what is special about Psalm 119?
It's long.
It's not just long. It is the longest chapter in the Bible.
Yeah.
Do you know why it is so long?
Really, that's been long since
The
I've
prayer
read it.
is stuck.
Well, because each chunk of it, it's an acrostic. For each set of like 8 or 12 verses, it starts with, in sequence, the letters of the Hebrew alphabet.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
oh, yeah, my Bible has that on the side. I had just read that a minute ago.
Song, what number is it?
Psalm 119.
Beginning with the letter of the Hebrew alphabet.
You all know the Hebrew alphabet, right? Alphabet, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
But I'm gonna pass the Hebrew Bible around right now because it has the same thing going on. This poem about the strong, capable woman is also an acrostic poem, each line starting with the next letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So first we'll show the folks at home. No,
119.
I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but right
Chapter
here,
31. It's
It's acrostic,
It's
yeah.
an acrostic.
this is a
where
letter.
each one begins with the successive letter of the Hebrew alphabet.
Yep, right here. So I'm gonna hand this around, but it starts, here's chapter 31. And here's the introduction, that first prayer. And then starting here, Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, yep. And it goes on to the next page. Remember, you gotta turn opposite direction. So I'll just pass this around, but there it is. Starting right there.
I'm not like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just fun trivia. It was fun to kind of come across all this stuff. Um,
Yeah, go the other way.
but here's what I want to do with our last little bit of time. Proverbs actually features women a lot more than other books of the Old Testament for sure. There's two other main female figures in the book of Proverbs. One is called the strange woman. Okay. She is the temptation, right? There's this big either or in the book of Proverbs, either wisdom or folly, right? And so the strange woman tempts people towards death, towards folly, away from wisdom. Okay. And then there's a third female figure in the book of Proverbs, and that is wisdom herself. Wisdom is portrayed as a woman who is out proclaiming, as opposed to some secret knowledge. Wisdom proclaims in the streets. Wisdom's available for anybody. Anybody can learn. Anybody can receive instruction and grow in wisdom, and by inference, grow in their godliness, right, in their righteousness. So there's these two women kind of at odds in Proverbs chapters 1 through 9. The strange woman who leads you towards folly and death and temptation, and wisdom herself that guides you and instructs you. Okay, so we're just going to read a few passages in Proverbs 1 through 9 about wisdom and the strange woman. And then at the end, I invite you to kind of compare these to this paragon of virtue and strength and capability at the end of Proverbs. And do these have any, do they rub off on each other at all, or are they just, they're each their own thing? So
Have you heard of Proverbs 31 Ministries?
I have not.
There's a whole website that you go and you can get daily devotionals from. I used to get it, but I don't anymore.
Was it helpful?
Been a while since I looked at it, but
Okay.
I thought it was maybe a little bit too conservative for me.
There is this thing, have you heard of the trend right now on some social media people called trad wives?
Mhm.
And that's fine, that's a weird name to me, but it's more the
Traditional.
traditional,
Yeah.
stay at home. I'm sure if that works for you, but if it's tied up in this sort of, and that's how you are a virtuous person.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I've got the feeling. I think that's probably why I stopped doing it, but it's been years
Yeah.
since I've seen it.
So I'm good with either, right? If you want to stay home, that's a career, man. Raising kids, managing a household. If you want to work, if you want to do both, that's good too. I come back to the Lutheran thing. Whatever your vocations are, all of them, live out your faith through them, whether as a parent, as a worker, as a manager, as a household runner, as a neighbor, whatever.
Although, as a teacher, behind the parent back, when we had some of these mothers, we used to say they need to go get a job. Because they were always,
Oh, helicopter moms?
yes,
Yes.
yes. And it was their child was the only child that was supposed to count. And
Sure.
so our favorite thing was they need to get a job.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong, but yeah, sometimes things definitely get out of balance. Because it goes the other way too, right? Like the folks that are so consumed with their jobs, their hobbies, whatever, that you kind of wish they were more involved with the kids' life. So there's no right way, but there's definitely things that can get out of balance. I think Donna hit the nail on the head earlier though, when she said, boy, this is almost an impossible standard.
Yeah.
Um, for anybody, not just women. This to me comes to what we're gonna hear from Romans today in worship, what the yearly Reformation Day reading. Everybody sins and falls short of the glory of God. Nobody can be righteous on their own without Jesus. And if you feel like this is the standard you have to keep to for your holiness, for your righteousness, man, that's gonna be a miserable life. To try to do it all the time. Never let any of the balls drop while you're juggling. Okay. Let's get into Proverbs 1 through 9. We got about 10 minutes to go. Somebody please read. Let's start with Lady Wisdom. Chapter 1, verses, I don't know how long to go. We're gonna run out of time. Let's do at least chapter 1, verses 20 through, yeah, let's do it, through 33. Proverbs 1, 20 to 33.
Wisdom cries out in the street, in the square she raises her voice. At the busiest corner she cries out. At the entrance of the city gate she speaks. How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing, and fools hate knowledge? Give heed to my reproof. I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make my words known to you. Because I have called and you refused, have stretched out my hand and no one heeded, and because you have ignored my counsel and would have none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when panic strikes you, when panic strikes you like a storm, and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you. Then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel, and despise all my reproof, and despise all my reproof. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way, and be sated with their own devices. For waywardness kills the simple, and the complacency of fools destroys them. For those who listen to me will be secure, and will live at ease without dread of disaster.
There you go. So stick with me. Stick with wisdom. I'll lead you right. But if you're, what did she say?
And there's some waller for the waywardness kills the
Yeah.
simple, and complacency of the fools destroys them. That needs to be on the wall.
Next
I might print that up, and put it on the office wall.
to the OSHA thing,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
exactly.
Which verse was that?
32 is 32.
Yeah. But how long will scoffers delight in their scoffing?
Uh-huh.
Fools hate knowledge. Right? So wisdom is not very merciful here. I'm gonna laugh at you. I'm gonna mock you. You morons, right? That's
You
kind
gotta
of
be
the
dumb, you better be tough.
Yeah. I told you. This is very much the parent saying, I told you what would happen.
Yeah.
There you go. So very I told you so, but so it's wisdom. And that the key thing here is it's available to anybody, right? Wisdom cries out in the streets, in the squares, at the busiest corner. Hey, I'm here, I'm instructing you. And this is for, verse 29, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. So listen to me, take my free instruction, learn the fear of the Lord, the reverence of the Lord, and you'll be good. You don't, I'm gonna laugh at you.
I like 22.
22. How long those simple ones we love being simple?
Yeah, so I like that one too.
Any other translations on that one?
Oh, it says wisdom is feminine in both Greek and Hebrew. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
Mhm.
So in a lot of languages, Greek, Hebrew, Spanish, French, words are gendered. It doesn't mean that one is, one is masculine like a person or an animal or feminine, but the verbs do have some correspondence, the nouns I should say. So like in Spanish, I don't know, a pencil is feminine. A pen is feminine. Paper is masculine.
Mhm.
I don't know why. There's an SNL sketch from a couple weeks ago where they kind of play with that.
Mhm.
Um,
So it doesn't mean feminine and masculine like I'm thinking of.
No.
Yes and no.
The goddess of wisdom in Greek mythology is Athena. It's the goddess of wisdom,
Yeah,
not the
that I
god of wisdom, yeah.
understand, right.
But since it's capitalized, right? Since it's personified, it's more than just a noun and you have to know which one is which. Since it's personified and wisdom is a character speaking, then that feminine declension does carry a different weight. And so if you ever read The Shack, which
Yes.
again is sort of
Yes.
it's oh you know it's interesting, right?
The
Stop
best
motion.
explanation of the Trinity I've ever been able to find.
It is pretty good.
Oh,
But it introduces a fourth aspect,
Yeah.
right? There's a wisdom character, there's a judge character. And so it's the same kind of thing. So wisdom is a personified woman. A lot of folks equate the Holy Spirit with wisdom because they have some overlap in terms of the things Scripture describes it for. So some people say she when they're talking about the Holy Spirit. Why not? I mean, our God is beyond anything
Mm-hmm.
of ours, right? There's no longer Jew or Greek, male or female, slave or free. So I think it's good to mix it up sometimes. But wisdom is definitely personified female. But yeah, wisdom is also here, not gonna put up with your nonsense. It's gonna mock, like, I will mock you, right? Like, wisdom is Nelson from The Simpsons. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
You did something dumb. Let's compare that though. So wisdom comes across as very open. I've got all this good for you, but not very, generous or patient. Now let's read the contrast of the strange woman. So could somebody read chapter verses 16 to 19? Now my translation is loose woman, other ones is strange woman. So two
Sinful woman here.
sinful woman, yeah. So 16 to 19, who's got it?
You will be saved from the loose woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words, who forsakes the partner of her youth and forgets her sacred covenant. For her way leads down to death, and her paths to the shades. Those who go to her never come back, nor do they regain the paths of life. Therefore, walk in the way of good, and keep to the paths of the just. For the upright will abide in the land, and the innocent will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the treacherous will be rooted out of it.
Thank you. So to me, this strange woman passage is summed up in this meme. Have you seen this meme?
Many times.
Everybody? Have you seen this one? Have you seen this picture before?
You have? People are not sharing their themes with you.
Okay, so the point of this one, people will label the three people in it. Guy with girlfriend. He clearly is like, oh, to the girl in red. And meanwhile, girlfriend, significant other, whatever, is like, how dare you? So in this scenario, this is the fool. This is the strange, loose, sinful woman, whatever you want to call her, the temptation away from wisdom towards folly. And that's wisdom going, what is wrong with you? So if you haven't seen this before, look it up. There's a lot of funny ones out there. Some are dumb, but there's a lot of funny ones out there. A lot of variations on it. That kind of gives you the idea. We're running out of time, so if you want to dig further, let me give you some passages to look up, or just read the book of Proverbs and the first 9 chapters, and you'll get most of this. But chapter 5, basically the whole chapter, is again warning against impurity and infidelity. Verse 3, the lips of a loose woman drip honey. Strange woman, right? So all of this is metaphor and analogy of folly and wisdom. Don't follow the temptation of folly. Stick with the wisdom of God. Chapter 7 is more on the strange woman. Chapter 9 has a little passage, verse 13 through 18, folly's invitation and promise. If you want more of Lady Wisdom personified, look at the first 6 verses of chapter 9. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She's slaughtered her animals, she's mixed her wine, she set the table, sent out the servants, and then calls from the highest places in town, you who are simple, turn in here. To those without sense, she says, come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. So come on in, let me feed you with wisdom. Chapter 8 has some more too. So if you read the first 9 chapters of Proverbs, you'll get this kind of compare and contrast between Lady Wisdom and the strange woman. And then you go through all the rest of the book of Proverbs, which is just, just look at it. It's just saying after saying after saying after saying. There's not even headings in my Bible, right? It just goes on and on. And then you get to the end, and here's the capable woman. So what do you do in your life?
I always like 9-9.
Very
Proverbs 9-9.
Give instruction to the wise, and they will become wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will gain in learning. I think that's great, especially for the folks who think, oh, I learned it all in kindergarten.
Right. You
Yeah.
can always learn something new.
Yes. Yes.
Can you give instructions to your lies?
Yeah. All right, let me see what I got left here. Yeah, there's lots of different scholarly theories about what it means in the different passages with the strange woman. Is she a temple occult prostitute? Now that doesn't check. Was she just a foreigner? Because that's a big deal for Israelites. Now that doesn't fit either. There's no evidence of that. Is it a foreign goddess? Is it just misogyny in general? There was a thing written in the Middle Ages called the Hammer of God against witches, and that's what helped fuel the Salem witch trials, which was basically like, don't let your women get out of line, Yeah. No, what is it? Is it a wife of another? There's this adultery language. No, it really does boil down as best as they can tell as this analogy, this metaphor of folly and wisdom. So repent of folly, adhere to wisdom and instruction. Any consequences? You have nobody to blame but yourself. Okay. So yeah. Yahweh accompanies, what do I write here? This is why I should squeeze stuff in at the bottom of the page. Wisdom is not a deity. In theory, it was already created at the beginning. It's this extension of God. Could it be the Word of God? Is wisdom related to Jesus, the Word? Is wisdom related to the Holy Spirit? Or is wisdom just another way to talk about God? But either way, wisdom accompanies God in the work of creation, is a bridge between the created and the creator, so you can learn and understand things. And mortals can begin to try to live in God's wisdom and understanding. So there you go. If you're going to do this chapter 31, if you want to do wall art for this one, just know that it's part of a book that's not like most of the other books in the Bible. That if you're going to put something up, you're better off with this one. This is probably the best one to hang up, where it's got the whole dang thing on there. If you start pulling out just a verse, just a thing, it could very easily come across as this is the only way to be a woman of God, right? But if you do the whole thing, I don't know. When I look at some of these, she laughs. She is strong. She's even this one. She's clothed with strength and dignity. All of these are good, but none of them are the whole picture that it's trying to paint. So I'm all about context, which is not make for great art, because this is
No one's gonna read that in your house, yeah.
exactly.
What's
So
that black thing supposed to be at the top of that?
her hair.
Oh, okay, now I see.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everybody. We're gonna shift to the New Testament. We'll pull out a couple of things that you might see. So if you have any suggestions or ideas for New Testament wall art versus, let me know. Same for you at home. Send them in.